I don't know what we can talk about in this nation without talking about white superiority, honestly.
Who defines the meaning of God also defines the relationship between economy and God.
African Americans spent $1.3 trillion last year, making us the 16th wealthiest nation in the world. Why have we not turned those riches into wealth to develop our community?
Peace, peace, peace. What's good, happy family? We back again with another show. This is going to be a good one. This one is kind of near and dear to me because I have a lot of conversations with people that I know, whether it's family members, co-workers, about melanin, right? And there's some misconceptions about melanin. There's some truths about melanin that aren't out there, that aren't spoken about. Seems like it's to be hidden. There's some lack of understanding when it comes to melanin, right, in our community. And there's some hype about melanin that maybe it shouldn't be hype, or maybe it should be put into context for us with scientific terms. So I just want to talk about that. But before we even bring our guests on to talk about that, you know what y'all got to do. You got to like, subscribe, share, right? Take some time out to do that. Comment on the video. Help us to get to 40K on YouTube. Subscribe. You got to subscribe. Hit that subscribe. Hit the notifications bell, because once you hit that notifications bell, it's going to notify you every time we post something, whether it's a post, whether it's a live that's coming up. You know, you don't want to miss out on these shows. And the live shows are good too, because you get to see the live comments. You get to interact with us, interact with people in the comment section. Also, what you want to do is you want to go to the website and you want to sign up for our newsletter. Okay, that's very important as well. Just go to happy.com. Click Stay Connected and sign up for the newsletter. That'll brief you on everything that we got coming up. And when I say everything, I mean everything. Study tours. We got some study tours coming up going to Africa. So you want to stay connected with that as well. All right. So with no further ado, let me just read my brother's bio. Okay, Dr. T. Owens Moore. He's a physiological psychologist, scholar, and author whose work bridges neuroscience and African-centered thought. A graduate of Lincoln University with a MS and Ph.D. from Howard University, Dr. Moore has spent over 2 decades as a professor, researcher, and activist. He has served on the faculty of Morehouse College, Atlanta University, where he also chaired the psychology department in Fayetteville State University. His academic work spans psychology, biology, and Africana studies, and he was a co-founding member of the Neuroscience Institute and Morehouse School of Medicine. As a researcher, he has received federal and private grants to study how hormones and neuropeptides influence social behavior, and he has applied this knowledge to support student learning and educational development. A 2009 Fulbright scholar, Dr. Moore has taught and conducted research across 4 continents and is widely recognized internationally for his scholarship and activism, particularly in Salvador, Brazil. He is the author of several influential books, including The Science of Melanin, Why Darkness Matters, Pigment Power, and hosts the Melanology Hour on Blog Talk TV. His current work continues to explore melanin, consciousness, learning, and human development. With no further ado, let me bring on my brother, Dr. T. Owens Moore.
Mm-hmm. Greetings, Brother Zahn. How you
Peace,
doing?
brother. Peace. How you doing this evening?
Oh, I'm doing great. I get a chance to speak to you and the HAPI family.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You looking young as ever.
Oh, that's that melanin.
Yes, sir. We're gonna talk about it. We definitely gonna talk about it.
Yes.
Because it seems like like there's some myths, and we got to be, I guess we got to be careful with the word myth, because sometimes myth seems like it's not real.
Yeah.
But you know, when I called you up, I wanted to speak to you, and I wanted you to speak to the audience to give some insight about melanin. What is melanin? How does it come about? What's the function of melanin? Where is melanin located besides the skin? Because most people are familiar with the melanin in the skin. What's the misconceptions of having melanin or not have so-called lacking melanin? It's you know, it's something that needs to be talked about. And like, what should we know? Like, what are the basics we should know as a melanated people? What we should know? Are there any pros and cons? Is there anything that we should be doing to heighten our melanin, if that's even such a thing? You know, so you know, I'm going to give you the floor, and we'll have some dialogue back and forth. You can present. I'll pop in here and there with some questions as needed, and you know, you tell us what you think we should know.
Right. So I appreciate the opportunity really to speak to your audience, and as you're even asking those questions, it's like, how do we find the realness or the information that is really pertinent? That word myth. I wrote a book called The Science of Melanin, and the original, the subtitle that the original publisher from Beckham House Publishers labeled it was Dispelling the Myths.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a book out there called The Science and the Myth of Melanin, and that's actually put out by a group in New York, A&B, but that's not my book. It's me, my stuff, but they have myth on there also. So you start to have this concern about what is real and what's not real. And the problem is that we as African people, we know ourselves, we must define ourselves. Other people outside of our world trying to define who we are makes the situation much worse in terms of what to, what not to believe. There's a white woman named Mary Lefkowitz. I don't know if you heard of her name, but she wrote a book called Not Out of Africa.
Yeah.
How teaching African or Afrocentricity became myth as real history. Now, this white woman never been to Egypt, never been to Kemet.
Yeah.
So she's saying African-centered scholars as us, what HAPI's doing is a myth. Black people weren't there in Africa. And that's the crazy part about it. I have this book called Black Spark, White Fire. And as I was reading this by a white journalist, Richard Poe, I just came across this Israeli woman named Lichtenstein. Her name is, what's her name? Miriam Lichtenstein. Now, this is what she says. She's now past 2004, but she's an Israeli scientist, so-called scientist. I do not wish to waste my time refuting the errant nonsense which is being propagated in the American Black community about the Egyptians being Nubians. What? And the Nubians being Black. What? The Egyptians were not Nubians, and the original Nubians were not Black. What? So people are reading this and see, as an Israeli scholar, people will say, oh, see, she knows what she's talking about. I just told you about the Mary Kay Lefkowitz wrote that book. I only want to show the book. It's not even worthy of us having a discussion on it. Dr. John Clark says he doesn't debate. Right. He debates his equals, and he's having a debate with her about this concept. So when you say this myth, and as you now are really asking the question, I appreciate you presenting it in that context to let the community know, from the young children to the old heads to whoever, how do we deal with this topic of melanin? You know, so that's what I've been pretty much writing about for, I guess you say, decades now. And now I'm in a position where I want to hopefully make this plain, as we talked about Malcolm X, making it plain. Malcolm X wasn't a psychologist, but I called him a master psychologist. Absolutely. He knew how to work those words. He knew how to work the information to share it with people so they could understand who they are, their self-development. And so that's why the melanin becomes important, because, as you say, it's not really just the skin. It goes a little bit deeper. So when we give our presentation, I'm going to go into the brain and how the brain is what's pretty much dictating how we operate, not the skin. But the skin and the brain, and the melanin is all important. So, any questions?
Yeah. Before you go into your presentation, because I'm sure there's something that was left out of the bio as far as your credentials or your history, because I know your history, but I want the people to know your history as far as schooling is concerned,
right?
So they can really understand, where you're coming from and the amount of knowledge that you've gained along the way from other scholars as well.
Okay, true. So I'm a product of the HBCU experience. So I went to Lincoln University in Pennsylvania. Went to Howard University in Washington, D.C. At Lincoln, the first person to actually get a Ph.D. in psychology was Francis Cecil Sumner, who was an undergrad at Lincoln. So the whole connection of looking at Kwame Nkrumah went to Lincoln. Thurman Gordon Marshall went to Lincoln. And we look at the opportunity to go to Howard University. I was in a graduate program where I had some of the most distinguished and prominent scholars teaching about Black people and us studying us. Yes. Alfonso Campbell to Leslie Hicks to Wade Boykin. So Wade Boykin and Dr. Hicks are now passed, but you have Dr. Harrell, people that gave you the comfort level of knowing that you're studying something important about our people. And how do we now channel this to make an impact on society? And so one of the scholars that was at Howard years ago was Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, yes, with a book called The ISIS Papers. So as I was going through grad school, looking at this melanin discussion and asking the question about, is it a psychogenetic theory or psychocultural? So I was moving towards the psychocultural component, dealing with how Diop talks about the two cradle theory. Yeah. Dr. Welsing was focusing on the psychogenetic, where it's like the lack of melanin makes you feel or be evil. And what's deep about this is, if you read one of her chapters on the neurochemical basis of evil, in the ISIS Papers, I questioned this topic of how do you say people are evil because they lack melanin? But what's going on today in this Project 2025 and what's happening to the people, not just here in America, but all over the world? Yeah, you got to question these ships that are down there in Venezuela now, down in the Caribbean. Yeah, you got to question the evil. You just had a hurricane in Jamaica, and the Caribbean is being pretty much pounded. Where's the humanitarian aid? We see what's happening over there in Gaza. So this evil, Dr. Welsing was on to something. Yeah. So I questioned that neurochemical basis of evil when she proposed it in the past. But I'm like, you know what? We need to check this out. Chapter 19. I'm just saying, we have to resurrect those individuals who have been at the forefront of saying there's something going on with this melanin. So there have been melanin conferences. And so Dr. Welsing, John Chazelle, I know you interviewed Brother Tony Browder. He's been very instrumental in pushing the message of our self-development. Brother Browder is the only Black excavation site over there in Kemet. That's right. Got his work up here.
Yes, sir.
Brother Browder.
Yeah.
He helped to initiate some of those initial melanin conferences in D.C. And then Dr. Richard King, may his soul rest in peace. Yes. He was very instrumental in my work. He appreciated what I was contributing, and he unfortunately passed away. Wrote a book called Why Darkness Matters, and I did an obituary in that book to honor him. Added some chapters along with Bruce Bynum, Ann Brown, and myself, and Richard King. So the scholars have been there working together. Yes. I'm not sure if you know Hunter. Yeah, you've interviewed Hunter Adams.
Yeah.
Hunter Adams has been a very instrumental scholar in the topic of melanin over the years. And I'm not sure if you know about Carol Barnes, but
Carol Barnes,
reached out to him to help him I want to honor him at the Blueprint for Pigment Power Conference.
Yes, sir.
We'll talk about that a little later on. But
Professor Kaba speaks very highly of you as well.
Okay, yeah, Brother Kaba, that's right. He wrote Carbon Before Melanin. I mean, the whole circle's there.
Yeah.
For you to present this topic and have me on to discuss it, we're now tying it all together.
Yeah.
So much respect to you for, again, asking the question. And
appreciate you.
Yeah, Impact. A brother over in England wrote a book called The Hidden Science of Melanin. Brother
Okay.
Leon Marshall has my work in here.
What's the name?
The Hidden Science of Melanin.
Okay.
Got to just definitely check him out. He has his own organization called the Hidden Science Academy. If I get a chance later on, I'll type it in there for you. But it's called the Hidden Science Academy.com. Just like you've all interviewed Brother Robin Walker.
Yep.
Robin Walker's been giving presentations at his academy over there in England, across the pond.
Okay.
So up to us again to keep making these links, to never let, because melanin ain't going nowhere. It's
no,
not
not at all.
Forever,
not at all. Yes.
The fear right now is of those people who don't have it, the melanin recessive folks. They're the ones that are now in that predicament. I wrote Pigment Power to talk about this changing dynamic of the sun's getting more intense.
Yes.
Global warming is going to make it more difficult for people to live. So this is our protection against all that. Those that lack that, they're acting a certain way to put themselves in the position to try to thrive and survive, but they're creating havoc all over the planet. It's a problem. Okay. So that's the background information on where I am to try to make some sense of this rather than us get it caught up. And I've had an impact on other people who've written books. Just named Joanne Hawthorne wrote a book called Melanin, Guide to Spiritual Awakening. She has my work in here. She has the first juice bar there in DC.
Okay.
And so she's very instrumental in my work. And then our sister named Joyce Moore, she wrote a book called, or a whole series called The Purple Mind, Nutritional Wellness. She talks about, the shield of protection. So she appreciates my work. So I've been around the game for a little bit, and I appreciate those who say that I impacted how they operate. I got a sister that's going to come to the conference to talk about some technology, dealing with that hair. I don't know, you got that hat on. I don't know if you got any hair up there anymore, but guess what?
It's going. It's all going.
Yo, she's using hair for some significant science stuff like soil nourishment, like flame retardant. So got to come to this conference. We're going to have some significant things talking about melanin at the Blueprint for Pigment Power conference.
Okay. Yes, sir.
So without further ado, can I share my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. You see, they've got the Blueprint for Pigment Power up there. All right. Yes. Yep. And I'm not doing that by myself. I'm trying to go geopolitical in my work. Got a colleague from Dominican Republic, Mali, Kentucky. Got a brother from Puerto Rico. They have helped to organize this along with me, and we are working on this together to not do this here in Atlanta or the United States, but to take this to other countries. Okay. So that's what we'll be doing for Blueprint for Pigment Power. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. All right. Somebody share my screen and let me know that you can see everything.
Yeah, it was just up there.
So you can see that?
There we go.
All right. So I'm also involved in the Melanin Institute of Human Technology. I work along with that with the sister who wrote that book just showed you called the Melanin Guide to Spiritual Awakening, Sister Joanne Hawthorne. She created that website and that organization, and we work together to focus on topics pertaining to how we need to enhance our melanin or studies dealing with our self-development. I'm also serving as the chair of the Department of Psychology, so I got a chance to teach students not just about the melanin, but just the issue of self-development, who they are. I've had impacts with Naim Akbar, Wade Nobles, I'm sure you know those scholars, and Amos Wilson. So all the Kobe Cambone, Linda James Myers, all those Black psychologists that have been very instrumental in helping others with their self-development. I'm just a product of what they've also been producing. So for HAPI, that's where we are on your channel. HAPI, that's the Nile River. So here we have, the little river flowing, sometimes there's the inundation period, too much flooding, and then it recedes, and now you have a chance to grow and flow, and that's why the Nile became like a very important part of that world and was like the fertile land where productivity was happening. So HAPI is the personification of the Nile and the bearer of fertile lands, nourishing both humans and the gods of Egypt. HAPI is often depicted as a bearded man painted blue or green. So think about chlorophyll. Some of those original images of Osiris were actually green. If you think about that, Maybe we used to be green, but we got rusted out, and that's where the melanin came in. So this chlorophyll is just the pigment in plants, and the melanin is the pigment in humans. All that is important for life and for the sustaining of life. So the annual floods created lush fields that resulted from the deposits of this thing called effluvium and mud. Basically, it's like melanin in the soil. So some studies in the future we'll be working on is dealing with the nature of the soil and how melanin deposits are very important for nourishment. So for the goals for this quick presentation, we'll look at the historical connections to blackness and Kemet. We said Egypt earlier, but we called it Kemet. And then look at the basis of melanin function, because we know they had been studying those things in the past. It's like we're not the first people that asked this question. So we'll revisit the presence of melanin in the skin, the brain, the internal organs, and I'm going to link a new concept I'm calling Kabafa. I'll explain it a little bit later on. But Kabafa is really the essence of how we're looking at melanin being and us being connected to the universe, rather than just speaking about the pigment in the skin and the brain. Well, what is this other higher level of connection? And that's what we'll talk about briefly later on. Briefly discuss epigenetic factors connecting the body and environment, and conclude with discussion on energy and where do we blast off from here. I say blast because...
I'm sorry, Brother Moore.
Go ahead.
1 second. The slides, we can't see the movement of the slides.
Oh, they're not showing? It says sharing on my screen here.
It's still on the first one.
How about that?
No, not yet.
Let's see. So you see that one?
Can you go into desktop mode and click on each one?
I can't. So can you see that right now? Presentation goals?
No, nothing right now. Share screen first.
Entire screen. Okay, entire screen. So you see me right now?
Yeah, I see you.
Share. So I'm sharing, yeah. Computer. So when I showed you earlier, were the other images coming through?
Yeah. Yep. But it was only the first one, though.
Yeah, we got to see these slides.
Share how you were sharing before. So our tech guru behind the scenes, Alicia. She's checking it. She's checking on it now. Okay, there you go.
So you can see that.
Yep.
Okay, that's what I just described. So you never saw that one.
So that was the third slide, right? We didn't see this one. We saw the one right before that.
So you see this one?
Yep.
All right. So that blast at the bottom there stands for brain lifting and energy supporting technology. So there are going to be multiple things coming out of this melanin discussion about products, things we need to consume, not just in our mind, but also our physical nature. So you see that slide?
Yep. Gotcha.
Now, you all have traveled to Kemet.
Yep.
And you go down the Nile, and as you're leaving the Nile, or going up and down the Nile, but leaving Cairo, going down to Nubia, and I just read something to you about the Nubians and the white woman saying that them Nubians weren't black. Them Nubians were black. Absolutely. And you know they were black. I don't know if you went on the ferries that were down there, but you had brothers and sisters that were welcoming us back.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yep.
So we can squash all this myth talk about the Nubians weren't black, and we're going to squash the myth talk that the Nubians did not tell the people in Kemet what to do. They said that's where they came from.
Yeah.
So along the Nile, the HAPI is in where we're talking about the strength of us building a knowledge base focusing on ourselves. Because when Kemet says, man, know thyself. I mean, you don't know who you are, then how are you ever going to be able to move forward to do anything in life? Mm-hmm. And they had to be melanin down to people, because you see on my phone there, it was 107 degrees in Aswan.
Yeah.
Hot. Now, how are you going to be light-skinned in a place called Africa and exist? Yeah. So you already know that ain't right. So those are black people, without a question. So in some of the temples, you had the construction where light would shine through. Sometimes we go all the way to the back to some of the holy centers where they would shine right onto certain, images of the Egyptian gods.
Yeah, I got that same picture.
Okay, it's right here.
I took that same picture. Yeah.
So I have a chapter in my book called Pigment Power called Sun Conscious, because the sun is so important for our livelihood. That's why it was problematic with the COVID crisis and people saying, stay inside, isolate. That's the worst thing you could do. Need the sun. So I'm saying we need to be sun conscious. So that image, yes, is a light shining through the cement coming through. And I'm just saying, like, beam me up, because they were on a whole nother level of consciousness there in Kemet. Do you remember Jack Johnson, the boxer?
Yep.
Blackness, unforgivable blackness. This was a documentary done by Ken Burns. If you ever have a chance to watch that, do. But Jack Johnson fighting in like the early 1900s. The white people said he wasn't black. You know what they called him? An Ethiopian. Why do you think they did that?
Burnt skin.
Not that, because they were saying they don't want you as black people here thinking you can do what he's doing. He was beating white people down during a time period where black people were in bad position. But as a boxer, he was fighting 19 rounds. I mean, boxing 19 rounds and just whipping people. So they didn't want to label him as just a black person, because they didn't want you to think you could do that. That man's from Galveston, Texas. It wasn't from Ethiopia. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there in Kemet, I was fortunate enough to go with Brother Yasir Rahotep. He's the brother who does the Kemetic yoga. Without him, I would not have gone and seen the magnificent images. Here is the Valley of the Kings, where you see the mountains in the back, and going deep down into the tunnel of the mountain are archives of the history of us. You see the sarcophagus way down there. So how do they even do this? And you see how we are sitting there like black raisins in that hot sun. But the people who are also traveling, you see those people in the back, man, them Asians and white people are covered up. Melanin recessive people are covered up because that sun is intense. That's why it wasn't them they're building, excavating, digging, and creating. So Africa is hot, and it creates that melanin. Brother Wayne Chandler wrote a book called Ancient Future. And here's a pyramid that we went into that had been pretty much demolished, but you can still go down into the internal workings, and as above, so below. Just to see the construction of going down into the ground of a monument that has these gigantic, colossal structures above. So what is above is also below. And as they design their monuments and their fixtures, they had a whole level of consciousness that dealt with tuning into self in Africa. So if you go deep down in there, what kind of light do you have? I mean, you've been there to the pyramids, you went to the King's Chamber?
Yep.
So what kind of light did they use? Did they go to Walgreens and get a light bulb? They go to, I don't know, supermarkets that got up there in New York. They go to the store, get a light bulb. How they see in those places? Yeah. But what's crazy is that on I think this Temple of Nandar, you see like that image of a light bulb.
Yep.
So that's a light bulb. You just showed a light bulb. You see the large glass area, the filament inside, and then the metal part where you screw in for the electricity. You see the same thing with the lotus flower holding something looks like a glass light bulb. Inside is like an eel. We know eels are for electricity. You see the djed, the pillar. I mean, we had some science that has been erased from us.
Wow.
So those African people were studying something that we don't know today because the white man has wiped it out of our minds like we could never do. You went to Abu Simbel down there in Aswan, right?
Yes, sir.
My goodness, carved out of the rock. And then when you go inside and you see what more monstrous, gigantic constructions of us. Who does that?
Mhm.
The people who think that they can be godlike. And the whole society was created around a way of elevating. I mean, they live by Ma'at to move to what? Another level of consciousness. So deep, that doorway way in the back is where that sun would shine, the light would shine onto, I think, Ptah-hotep at a certain day of the year. So here we have us as African people building all this. And I know Brother Jabari Uzazi from New York talked about Abu Simbel is really called Ramesses Meriamun.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the names of the temples are European names that we got to erase to start redefining ourselves, because when you start thinking about others who are taking your work, Sigmund Freud was a famous psychoanalyst, and on and in his office, right above his couch, is a picture of Abu Simbel. I don't know if you've ever seen that before.
No, I've never seen that.
So I'm there on the right side there, pointing to the same place that he has a picture in his office. On his desk, pictures of Osiris, Isis, Imhotep. They know about all of our work. They studied our stuff, but we don't understand that they manipulated our work. That's why we're confused about going back in time, trying to figure things out. That's why the melanin story becomes confusing, because they said, oh, melanin and black is bad. So we get confused about what that really means. You've seen it. You've seen Horror Maquette.
Yep.
That's us. The jaws, the cheeks, the nose, which is gone. The image there I'm showing you, I think, was a picture from the time where Count Voni was traveling to Kemet. Count Voni was around the same time as Napoleon. He's saying that, look, these were black people that did this. He didn't see the whole excavation of the body and the tail. He didn't see all, he just saw the head coming up out the sand. Count Voni came to America in a place called Monticello. Who ran Monticello? Thomas Jefferson. That was his buddy. They talked. So you know darn well Thomas Jefferson knew that them African people from Africa was African people and black people that built all that. But he had slaves. Contradictions all around the white man's world. So while we're on the cruise, Brother Yasir Rahotep and Brother Jabari Osazi and myself, I'm only showing this because three brothers trying to work it out. I appreciate you calling me to do this. Here you are doing this program. Brothers trying to work it out, right?
Yep.
But let's take this global. Who are these brothers? From the Francophone countries.
Yes, sir.
From the Francophone countries, trying to work this out. Mali, Nigeria, Burkina Faso, putting on the map that there's no more days like slavery anymore. Black people are going to control, run, and dictate how things are going to operate. No more exploitation. So I was just showing that picture of Brother Azazi and Brother Yasir Rahotep, because they have programs. They take people to Africa all the time.
Yeah.
Right. Almost 40 visits to Kemet, Brother Yasir Rahotep. I'm not sure about Brother Ozazi, but he takes people there and takes them to the museums, United States, to show them, look, these were black people. So much respect to them for doing their work. And again, the world is changing right now, and we've been betrayed for so many years. Got to wipe and take them chains up of our brain. Brother Kaba Kameni, but he does that up in New York. He's retired now, I believe, but he has been for years, working with Hidden Colors and doing things to get this colonized mindset out of our brains, because that's where it starts. So before I get into the melanin piece, any questions for me?
Nah, you good. You rocking and rolling.
So when we say this melanin, yes, it is a complex biopolymer. What does bio mean? Biological. What does polymer mean in science? A polymer is like something that can be made into different things, like Play-Doh or Lego blocks. So this biopolymer of melanin is not just in our skin for the darkness, but it's also in nature. It's in the cosmos. it's almost like the chlorophyll that we just said earlier. It was in plants. So this melanin, this darkness that's in our body, has a certain role to play to keep us healthy. We'll go over those roles, but I want you to understand that that's a carbon-based molecule right there. Nitrogen, carbon, hydrogen, the carboxyl groups, all these particular hydroxyl groups, all these particular chemical orientations are what give it a firm foundation of being almost indestructible. That little image there with these arms flowing up, that's a melanocyte. That's what makes the melanin in your skin. You see where it says African is dark, because those are the melanosomes in the arms that then extend up to the outside of those arms, and they go up to the keratinocytes, and they now bathe the skin and give a beautiful skin tone. Asians have the same melanocytes. They're a little bit not dark, but they're there, and they got a little tint to them. The European has melanocytes, but they can't get dark like us. They can tan, but can't get dark. So can you see my what they call it, my cursor moving when I talk to you about this?
Yep, I can see it. Yep.
Great. So again, those dots right there are the melanin granules in your skin. Right here are the actual arms of the melanocyte, where they actually are they exude out and they then bathe your skin. So as you see, the European and Asian don't have as much in their skin.
Yeah.
On that right side there is the same kind of image of a melanocyte. Looks like a tree.
Yeah.
You know, it also looks like a neuron. What's a neuron? That's a brain cell. So with that arm and then the melanin in those arms, and then they then leave the arms and they then go bathe the top of the skin, gives you a smooth, even skin tone. That's just the melanin in your skin. But it looks like the neuron in your brain, which also what smits neurotransmitters, smits chemicals. So this right here is the receiving portion of a neuron. This long part right here is a transmitting portion of a neuron. Dendrites, axons, looks just like what we have for a brain cell and a or say a skin cell. So there's power in the skin and the brain, and the skin basically is the largest organ in the body. When you say you have some vibes, the vibes may not be just coming from your brain, they're coming from your skin and feeling something.
Mm-hmm.
So for the advantages of all that we just discussed, it's an antioxidant. So melanin serves to neutralize toxic substances to keep your skin looking young. So I'm trying my best to, stay young. You saw brother Dr. Nichols, 94 years old and still doing his thing.
Yeah.
Going up steps, probably still driving, still writing, brain is sharp, so that antioxidant keeps the toxic substances from destroying your brain cells and also keeping your skin looking young. 2, nerve conduction facilitator. That means everywhere you find melanin in the brain is making those impulses go faster and quicker. So melanin in certain areas of the brain can help out with certain kinds of tasks that make the impulses move faster, because it's a semiconductor in science. Energy transformer. Maybe a little bit more difficult to comprehend this, but energy is all around us. So you got light, photons, you got sound waves, energy. That energy that's out there, your body must transform it for your body to interpret it. So in your eyes, in the back of your eyeball, the retina, it's dark in color. If it's not dark in color, you're basically blind, can't see. Your ears, there's inner ear melanin. There's certain frequencies that you hear, certain sounds that you interpret differently. So that's why when you talk about nature, some people are more in tune to nature. Guess what? They can not control nature. They can live in peace and harmony with nature. If you lack that, guess what? You might try to control nature. So energy transformer. So that's ear, eye, but how about the skin? We have to really question what's going on in the environment with pulses of energy that can be transmitted to us and that can impact our cells. We know that the sun produces radiation. Well, there's some radiations is more significant than others. There's also gamma radiation out there in the cosmos. So those radiation can be deteriorating our cells, but the melanin serves as a transformer of the positive energy that we do need. So when we look at the importance of its then we have to start looking at behaviors that result from having a good melanated system. Psychomotor skill development, which people usually don't talk about. They want to just talk about IQ tests. What is IQ? Intelligence quotient. What is that? Just measuring a person's, I guess, skill set of recalling names and states and places and understanding certain things from a European perspective. So most of the society we're living in focuses on just that kind of description of how intelligent you are, but not skill development. Hip hop music, rap music. So the brother Hassan, do you can you kick some lyrics?
Nah. Actually, I was doing a little something last night. I was freestyling and I was horrible at it.
Oh, so you got some children, all right?
Yeah.
Then your children do some, they do it better than you?
No, they could dance. They could dance. Yeah.
All right. So it's just that's something that we do, and it ain't easy. You just said it.
Yeah.
And when you do hear a white person rap, you kind of hear that there's no rhythm to it. There's not no flow, you know. So there's something going on with being able to kick some polysyllabic terminology, stay on rhythm, and keep up with those kinds of terms. You ever heard of Black Thought from Roots?
Absolutely, yeah.
My goodness, I consider him the grand master.
Yeah.
Of MCing. To even be able to kick all those lyrics and know all those names but then I hear that, you know, hey, the things that we do, hey, people are amazed at some of the things we do and we know. So I just look at hip hop and rap music as a way to really express how that melanin's working in the brain. You just said dance, moves, and rhythm.
Yeah.
African people we created that opportunity for us to be in tune with nature through music. And that's why you transition to drums and beats. We create that. I mean, you know, Del Jones talked about culture bandits. They stole everything from us. You know, so
but you know, some people may say they may try to combat that by saying, well, there's great white singers, there's great white dancers, and great white rappers. You know, what would you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, Eminem is pretty good, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's been some good drummers, you know, that Max Roots is a black drummer, but I'm sure there's some Buddy Rich. I mean, yeah, so people can learn, but they didn't create, you know, didn't come from them. So everybody can copy from someone. That's why Del Jones said culture bandits. Not saying white people can't do hip hop. Gotcha. So you look at Palestine and you look at other places all over the world, our hip hop music has changed the world.
Yeah.
You know, Palestinians were rapping in hip to consciousness and things that needed to be done to change their society. Then with revolution, and you see how in America it's been flipped because they knew the impact. Now you got the people dancing, you know, booty butt music now. You know, the focus is now not on us as a people, which is a problem. It's about things and material stuff and sex.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with what hip hop came out to do. Yeah. So the drums and the beats now being used against us. Dangerous. So music is a weapon. It can be used to help you, but it's also now being used to attack us. And the last thing about, again, psychomotor skill development is sports moves. You know, we changed the game of basketball, changed the game of football, changed the game of track. I don't know if you even saw the world championships they just had in Tokyo. They didn't even put it on regular TV. World championships. The whole world is watching this. But you know what? I bet you if they had Caitlin Clark running, they would have had it on.
It would have been on.
Oh, my goodness. All them black folks was dominating track events. Tennis. We changed tennis. You heard of Serena Williams?
Yeah.
Venus Williams. Now you got Coco Gauff, the highest paid athlete. Golf. That guy. Yep. Wow. Almost 2 years in a row with her, you know, advertising and having a chance to make money outside of tennis. That's like how you rank that, but she's doing very well for herself, and she represents what it means to be a person that lives by ma'at. If you ever got a chance to watch and see her off the court and how she carries herself at a young age, beautiful family, raised right. And then golf, I don't want to talk about that because we do have somebody that changed it, but he had his own issues about dealing with his melanin, so we won't talk about that person. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So psychomotor skill development. I'm just saying that we changed the game. I didn't even put gymnastics up there. Gymnastics. You been following that?
Lightly.
You need to follow it heavily because black women are dominating gymnastics.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So winning awards 1, 2, and 3. What? Back to back sometimes. So just in terms of how they kept us out of events, and once we get into those events, we shine and go above. So they just want to say we're athletic. None of this deals with anything being smart, though, huh? Nah, this is the brain working to enhance your skill set. So once we're able to do, we change the game, and it happens in everything we touch. So the melanin then becomes like the magic molecule, not just in our skin, but in our bodies internally, and specifically in our brain. So these are some books I wrote, talk about that. Originally talked about science of melanin. I went deeper into the brain, talking about the pineal gland and drug addiction, talking about dark matters and dark secrets. The dark matters does talk about the cosmos, because there's something in the cosmos keeping us together, like dark matter and dark energy. And so I kind of delve into that. Pigment power, wrote that to go into more in-depth discussions and kind of make it more up to date where we are. I don't know if you heard about this, something that came into our solar system. I think it's called ATL3, Atlantis.
No, never heard about it. No.
It's big news right now because people don't know what it is. Is it a spacecraft? Was it a meteorite? Well, I talk about in pigment power, something that came through like a cigar-shaped structure that came through our orbit. It's a couple of years ago, but it's still out there circulating, called Umama. Oaumana, Umama. Something's out there. That's why we have to pay attention to the cosmos and what's happening rather than always looking down and bickering with one another. We got to take this to a higher level. And we're being distracted by a Manchurian orange, creating havoc all over the world. So I say Manchurian. My students didn't know who the Manchurian Candidate was. They never saw it, heard that before.
Okay.
But you seen the Manchurian Candidate?
Yep.
And they did a remake with Denzel Washington?
Yep.
Yo, that's real. What we see going on right now, because you know darn well that guy is not smart, but he's what? Running things, or someone's allowing him to run things. Wrote a book called Why Darkness Matters to go deeper into the brain. I already said I wrote that with Dr. Bruce Bynum, Ann Brown, Richard King. And so we revised it, and hopefully that's also a source for people to use for this discussion, and also Kabafa. Now it's going to redefine Kabafa, and it should be coming out the end of this year. But Ka is dealing with the body. 2 arms raised. I'm sure you know of that through studying Kemet.
Yeah.
So Ka, the body can't go anywhere, understand anything without the body. Ba is the second division of the soul, breath. So that also deals with energy and a system that without breath, there is no life. And then Fa is, if you ever check out Stolen Legacy by George James.
Yeah.
He has a chapter in there, and I think I'm going to go over that real quick, but he has a chapter in there talking about fire atoms. And so now I'm tying all this in to say, you know what? We're not the first to talk about melanin. Our ancient African ancestors talked about that years ago. They were trying to define things, and I would say trying. They did. Because can you build a pyramid today? Can you create like a construction?
No.
They did. I wonder how they did that.
Yeah.
So we can now say that they knew a certain level of knowledge that we just have not tapped into today. So Kabafa, everyone had it and displayed it until they were discovered. Now, if you vibe on that, what I'm saying by discovered is that when they found us, they didn't know what they were looking at, understanding. We saw them, we didn't know what we were looking at. Seeing somebody was pale, they saw somebody who was beautiful with their bodies, not worried about having it being covered up. So when we were discovered, they then began, let us say they, as melanin recessive people, began attacking our consciousness. We have had a war ever since the so-called introduction. Haki Madhubuti wrote a book called Enemies, Class of Races. Guess what? We're still clashing. Nature, Kabafa. That's where we need to be to understand the importance of melanin now, because it goes beyond, again, just the skin and the brain. It's how everything collectively works together. So the actual process of transmitting or channeling energy is based on the electromagnetic energy that's in the universe and our body and how we communicate with that. So melanin itself is a semiconductor. I mean, it channels energy. And you know as well as I do, if you had a hot day and you're wearing black, what's going to happen?
You're going to draw that energy.
And burn up. So the melanin is doing that on a scientific level, keeping our bodies in tune with nature. So it permits that communication with nature. And you see some people, oh my goodness, they're destroying nature. Like it has no relevance. And nature is everything. So in chapter 5 of George G. and James, he talks about, and actually he's really relating it to studying some other scholars like Democritus, these pre-Socratic thinkers. But you know, they were studying in Kemet, so they were getting it from African people. They just reinterpreted it. Fire atoms are carbon-based molecules that we can today call melanin. So melanin is a pigment that gives color. Just like I said earlier, it's like the chlorophyll in plants. And there are no plants that don't have chlorophyll. If they don't have chlorophyll, there's no life. So it's the same thing with melanin. So this kabafa and this fire atoms, it says the mind or soul is composed of fire atoms. So how are they even thinking about that back then? When today we're talking about quantum mechanics. Today we're speaking about quantum mechanics and a whole nother level of energy communication. The smoothest and the most mobile. These fire atoms are distributed throughout the whole universe. As I just said earlier, dark matter and dark energy control our universe to keep things together. In all animate things, like we just said, like plants, and especially in the human body where they are found in the largest numbers. So all I'm saying here is that we aren't the first to talk about melanin. You with me?
Got you, brother.
So with the science, these are some carbon-based molecules, like we said melanin is, that are in our brain, and they help the brain to function right. Dopamine, norepinephrine, they're catecholamines that are very important for your mood. Dopamine for euphoria, norepinephrine to keep you stabilized, dealing with stress. Acetylcholine, that's associated with movement. All carbon-based molecules. Gamma-aminobutyric acid, glutamate, phenylalanine, tyrosine, they're all amino acids. Guess what? When you eat your diet, you eat amino acids. No amino acids, guess what? You're going to have a problem with your diet producing the chemicals that your brain needs. Melatonin, you heard of that? Yep. That's not melanin. Melatonin is a hormone that comes from the pineal gland, also found in the eye, also found in other parts of the body. Serotonin is also a carbon-based molecule, but it's different than the other ones. But serotonin is very important for mood. Low levels of serotonin are associated with being depressed and not feeling good. So people take antidepressants to boost the serotonin to make them feel good. The point is, they're carbon-based molecules. On the right side there, on the other level or other column, those are now external agents that are also carbon-based that can also influence your brain and your mood. DMT, dimethyltryptamine. There's a book called The Spirit Molecule by Richard Strassman. If you've ever seen that before, I don't think you see it on my camera. I'll bring it up a little later on.
Okay.
But DMT, it's like a molecule that's found in certain medicinal plants that gives you a certain level of consciousness. Marijuana, people call that a hallucinogen. Cocaine, stimulant that also can cause you to feel very high. Phenylcyclidine, or PCP. So they say that's like angel dust. People who are pretty much really like the super strength, they say they are on PCP. Again, a carbon-based molecule. Opium, amphetamines. Opium chills you out. Amphetamines, what? Boost you up. Black people don't really do methamphetamines, but methamphetamines are something that some people do, some cultures do, like melanin recessive people, and that's not us. We don't need that. There's a book by Wallace Terry called Bloods, an oral history of Black Vietnam veterans, and he talks about how, the Black brothers in that horrific scenario, they were taking things like marijuana to chill them out. White people were like taking amphetamines to rev them up. In the same scenario, but processing things differently. Alcohol, LSD, and ecstasy, or MDMA, methylene dimethyl. I think MDMA, ecstasy. You heard of that because now people are using that to put it in, lacing it with some of your marijuana. Yeah. LSD is lysergic acid diethylamide. LSD is like a manipulated molecule, but it looks just like serotonin. Carbon-based molecule. And alcohol is problematic because we know about African people being targeted with things like malt liquor. Why are we drinking the hard malt liquor, but they're not marketing it to white people?
Yep.
So beyond the chemicals, look at the neuroanatomy dealing with how the brain is processing these chemicals. The substantia nigra. As a brother studying melanin right now, have you ever heard of that term, substantia nigra?
Yeah.
Black substance deep in the middle of the brain. You lack it, you have some problems. That slide I showed you earlier that talked about psychomotor skill development, the substantia nigra becomes critical in that role. Red nucleus associated with mirror neurons. So that's the place in the brain where there's like an image of you doing a task before you even do it. If I ask you, can you moonwalk? What's the first thing that comes to your mind if I ask you, can you moonwalk?
Michael Jackson.
And that's pretty deep because he's not here anymore, but it's in our mind about somebody moonwalking.
Yeah.
We're not doing it, but the brain is processing that.
Yeah.
Those are pigmented cells that are doing that. Locus ceruleus, that's deep in the brain, produce that norepinephrine, and it's like where the mental nerve track is. We'll talk about another book another time. Nucleus accumbens and ventral tegmentum, that's the reward center in your brain. The chemicals that are stimulated in these areas help with reinforcement. Like, I want to do that again. I want to do that again. So you got drugs that keep pushing the system, make you want to keep doing it again. The tectum is also in the middle of the brain. So it's involved again in that middle part of the brain. It's like the floor, the roof, right where the tectum is some chemical, there's like some structures to help you process vision and hearing at a whole nother level. And that's why when you think about people saying they hear things, or seeing visions, these areas of the brain are being activated. Hippocampus, amygdala, memory and stress, fear and aggression. So those are areas in the brain that, again, are receiving some of those chemicals we just talked about earlier. And then the pineal gland, that's where the melatonin is primarily produced at. I think I'll show an image next that tells you where some of these areas are, but I'm showing you physically these areas are dealing with melanin. Habenula is right before the pineal gland.
So wait, let me stop you for a second. So don't some scientists say that the pineal gland has no usage?
They call it a vestigial organ. Vestigial means no longer needed. Your appendix is supposed to be a vestigial organ. Vestigial means no longer needed. That's why people are saying that, because maybe they're not using it.
Okay.
Well, they don't. I can't say they have it, but you think it's like a recessed eyeball, because people call the pineal gland the third eye.
Yeah.
Or might be the first eye.
Yeah.
So it's recessed, and since it's not serving like the two eyeballs, they thought it might be vestigial, but it definitely is having a role to play in your circadian rhythms and keeping you in tune with the environment. The interpeduncular nucleus at the base of the hypothalamus, cerebellum, and the back of the head. I'll show you the image next, but I'm just telling you that when you see these words and people go back to look at it, they can now relate this word to a certain place in the brain. Those last two, nigrostriatal pathway, that's the one that is impacted with people who have Parkinson's disease. You heard of Parkinson's disease?
Yeah.
So Parkinson's disease is when you have tremors at rest that can't move right. So that area produces dopamine. No dopamine, cells don't work right. The mesolimbic pathway is for emotions. So if that's heightened, it could make a person feel, maybe like not so much schizophrenic, but too much dopamine can cause schizophrenia. So mesolimbic making you feel good. And for us as African people, if there's no music at a party, there's no music, there's no party.
Yeah.
For white people, they just need alcohol.
Yeah.
No, we need to have the movement and the rhythm, and all that goes hand in hand. So those chemicals and those brain areas are important for that. So here you have a brain, which I consider it to be the most elaborately constructed entity in the universe. You see all those little ridges, those are convolutions, those are gyri, those are the places where the neurons are kind of in a layer of cells, and those layer of cells are what are keeping us thinking, like we're processing this presentation right here. That white area that's right in the middle of the brain, that's called the corpus callosum. That was connects to your left brain and your right brain. Deep in the middle of that, I think I'll show you this. So deep in the middle, that pink area right there, that's the pineal gland.
Oh, okay.
It's sitting there and it's floating. It's like there's no structure around it holding it. It's just like a penis sitting in your brain.
Is it floating in a substance?
No, it's attached to the brain, but there's fluid around it.
But what's the fluid?
Cerebral spinal fluid.
Okay.
cerebrospinal fluid flowing all around the brain, inside the brain in the ventricles. There's a little pathway right here, right below the pineal gland. These two little bumps, that's what a tectum is. I had that tectum written on that other slide. When people go back to look at the slide, they can see where it is. That's the tectum. On the bottom is the tegmentum. Deep within there is the substantia nigra. And these two little bumps, sorry about the words, but it's called superior and inferior colliculus. The superior colliculus helps you to deal with orientation for what? Seeing things move in the sky. The inferior, like if you heard a sound, well, where's that sound coming from? Those two particular organs, along with the pineal gland, keep you in sense with a kind of like an intuitive orientation.
So those are organs then?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And again, the pineal gland sitting deep within, your eyeballs will be right here. When you see it's like it's recessed in us, deeper in the brain. And then so these other areas, the hippocampus and the amygdala, they would all be areas that are then embedded in the subcortical structures of the brain. That area back there, that's the cerebellum. That's the area that is again for like fine coordinated movement. But you got almost 70 billion neurons right there. Wow.
Question. Is that where the eye of Haru comes from?
So the eye of Haru, if you actually look at, I have an overlay in another presentation. It's how they saw this, and you see the eye, the thalamus right there in the middle. That's the eyeball, the thalamus.
Yeah.
And so my understanding is this is the sagittal section of the brain. Our ancient African ancestors were dissecting the brain. You know that because they had canopic jars. Why? Because they were doing mummification. Yeah. So they were studying the brain. As they sliced the brain, they then saw these images and they were able to put together something like the third eye, the eye of Hujet, Wajet. So they were now studying the brain and putting it into a philosophical context for us to understand how important it is. Yeah. So that's the substantia nigra. Where you see those lines and those arrows, this bottom one is what I just said on the previous slide, this nigrostriatal pathway. That's the top one, nigrostriatal pathway. And this is the mesolimbic pathway, the one that's going straight to the forebrain. So those two areas, without the dopamine, you got a problem. The same chemicals, the same amino acids that make the neurotransmitter dopamine is also making your melanin. This gets pretty deep because there's different enzymes that makes that happen, but there's no way we can call melanin in the skin and melanin in the brain a waste product. It's serving a purpose. So for you to understand those parts of the brain that are important, look at that. The same areas I just showed you, they didn't go to the reward centers in the brain. And some people like candy. You just had this crazy thing called Halloween. People like candy. Some people like being number one in competition, so they like keep competing. Some people like hanging out with others. Some people make them feel good, so the social contact and drugs of abuse like cocaine and alcohol. These areas are lit up and stimulated when people are seeking that kind of reinforcement. So, melanin-dominant people are vilified like there's something wrong with them because they got this dark color. He's a little white boy, because when kids are growing up, my daughter used to think I was orange rather than saying black. Kind of understood, because what is black? It's not like the crayon black. Yeah. It's color. Yeah. Kids don't really grow up worrying about all that. Yeah. They come into a consciousness dealing with their parents and the society, and now things get manipulated. But here it says, maybe if I change my brand of suntan lotion, I'll get a tan like yours. Kids may really think like that.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So in the laboratory, they studying us. That's why that movie They Clone Tyrone is pretty deep. Yeah. For those that haven't watched it, with all these things that happen even over in Palestine and the people getting killed and taking organs, because nothing's being studied and nothing's being investigated. So organs and studying the melanin in the skin now has gone to a whole nother level. So now you can make melanin powder from different types of scientific processes. So I'm only going to read on the left side here that the applications are for being an antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, digestive protection, Wow, this all sounds like it's really important for health, doesn't it?
When you say they're making melanin powder,
Mm-hmm.
how are they making it?
Right there in the middle. You could bleach it, use HPLC, use certain chemicals that can now process it in a laboratory. So you can now
they're getting the melanin from your body?
Synthesizing it. Here they're synthesizing it. For humans, we have in our skin something called eumelanin. So eumelanin is what makes us brown and black and dark. Pheomelanin is like more red, like people who are red hair. So there's some pigment there. Allomelanin is not really in humans, but the sources could be bacteria, fungi, and marine animals. Like, have you ever seen a squid? They shoot ink.
Yeah.
So you can take that, study it in the lab, and now create more of it. That's how that would happen.
Is that melanin that is shooting out?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Okay. So where are those under types? Where are those different types of melanin located?
In terms of eumelanin and pheomelanin?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the skin.
Mm-hmm.
See, I don't have the others would be neuromelanin. You know what I mean? So what's in the skin is not the same melanin in the brain, but that would be others.
Gotcha.
So eumelanin, black, brown, like us, melanin dominant people, pheomelanin, people like light skin and freckles, redheads. And so the level of melanin depends upon the types of enzymes to make sure the amino acids are converted. Lack enzymes, guess what? You're going to lack the production of making melanin. So persons are albino, they lack the enzymes fully. That's why they're pretty much non-pigmented. So I'm just showing you this here because you can go to the lab and make this stuff.
Yeah.
So when I say they clone Tyrone, guess what? They might be in the lab using some skin grafts to do some things. So white science neglects the human, or the human. There's a current article called Natural Melanin, Current Trends and Future Approaches. And here is where they say melanin is a universal, natural, dark polymeric pigment arising in microorganisms, animals, and plants. You don't see humans on there.
Nope.
See, they disconnected from black people. They disconnected from people who are melanin dominant. And these two authors here are actually from Egypt. You'll track down this article. These are scholars from Egypt. So they know they're African, but they might not think African, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Research. You can go ahead and look at this article here. It talks about how they've made melanin 1 billion times more semiconductive. They put it in a vacuum, processed it, and that now can conduct energy higher than the regular melanin. Whoa. So people are making money off of this. This is people in France, Italy. Italian researchers are doing this. So they're studying this melanin in the skin, now translate it into science. And so I'm going to try to go through this quickly because I don't want to spend too much time on this science talk on a Saturday evening. Oh, there's a Sunday, right? Sunday evening.
Yes, sir.
But psychoneuroendocrinology, our bodies are in tune with nature. As that sun shines, it goes through the skin and it causes your cells to change. The reason why you can get cancer is because it can mess with your DNA, cause a problem. So the melanin, the dark stuff right there, is blocking the sun to keep your skin healthy. The chemicals that can be created, POMC, beta endorphins, these help out with reducing pain. That's what analgesia dependency is, reducing pain. You got melanocyte stimulating hormone. You got pro-opium melanocortin. All I'm telling you is there's science to the way the sun talks to your cells. When we study that, it takes it to a whole nother level of saying, you know what? I am a walking science experiment. So as the sun's shining through, it can it could cause DNA damage, but the melanin helps to prevent that. And as these chemicals are being produced, do you feel good on a sunny day?
Absolutely.
I wonder why. Because these chemicals are being generated.
Yeah.
So someone can go back to look at how these chemicals then talk to receptors that make the chemicals activate and to make what? More melanin.
Is there a difference between sunlight and UV light? Like
no, sunlight is UV light.
Okay, got it.
So ultraviolet radiation, UVA, UVB, that all is sunlight without a question. The issue is probably you're asking is in the laboratory, like tanning salons. That's a whole different level of light. Becomes more problematic. So melanin is a skin hormone because it can be released from the body when there's activation going on. It happens in your skin when it's sun shining, but it can also happen during not stress, but maybe giving birth. So here on the left side here, the stress hormones, CRF, ACTH from the brain, talk to a place in your body called the adrenal glands. They kick in your stress hormone called cortisol. Now that's happening. It also happens where that chemical you just saw, POMC, can talk to MSH to produce melanin. That means you have a chemical release of melanin in your skin. And a woman who's pregnant, that lineus nigra from the belly button going down to the vaginal region doesn't happen because someone drew a crayon on there. It's because internally your chemicals are being processed. That's why we have to go deeper into the embryo and understand that without melanin, you're going to have a problem with development. Spina bifida, neural tube defects. When you see the brain at 42 days of age is like all this area right up here. It's the brain. That's a lot of mass. The heart's right here. Guess what? The heart and the brain are connecting already. And you go to Kemet, isn't that important? Talking about the pressure in your heart or your heart against a feather.
Yep.
Yo, we talk about putting the brain and the heart together for what we do as African people. So I'm not going to talk too deeply about this, but when you go into developmental embryology, again, those places in the brain, neural crests, these areas in the body, this is now a sketch of what's happening in the neural or the embryo. And what we're saying is that those cells go to make some of your other important parts of your body. So if they're not working right from the beginning, you have a disconnected system. So your pigment epithelia is your skin, your adrenal glands. Again, they produce that cortisol, also norepinephrine, your autonomic nervous system. That's a system that controls your breathing and your heart rate, your digestion without you even paying attention to it. So those neural crest cells are dark in color, and they produce all these cells right here that are then important for your body to function right. So without melanin from the beginning, earliest stages of the Big Bang in that belly, you're going to have a problem. So it's the spark of life. That egg and the sperm come together, make the zygote. That's energy. And then when you look at the way that the cells are connected together, there's something called gap junctions. So where you find melanated cells, there's a lot of cells that are lined up. Here's one cell on top. Here's another cell on bottom. These gap junctions mean that impulses like ions can flow through there quicker. That means the impulse is faster. That's why Black children develop quicker than other children. Did you hear what I just said?
Yep.
Amos Wilson wrote the book, Developmental Psychology of the Black Child. Why aren't we studying that? Why do we act like everybody's the same? Not the same. And you can see it physically. So think of thoughts and speed of light. That's why I'm saying hip hop music, rap music, and the things we do in sports. That's the brain functioning. So the melanin deep in the brain, again, just showing you these images because guess what? There's no myth. When we said earlier about a myth, there's no myth. That melanin is there for a reason to help those impulses fire right. So there's that melanin deep in the brain. There's that red nucleus we talked about earlier. There's the brain where the thinking part is coming from. And then it goes down to the spinal cord, to your muscles. There's the mental nerve tract. Dr. King, you always talked about that. The locus coeruleus, the dorsal raphe nucleus, the substantia nigra, all in there. Guess what? Those pigmented cells don't work right. You got a problem with your thinking. Here's a brain that's healthy. Here's a brain that's not healthy. The healthy one is dark in color. The healthy one, those cells have died out. What do you suffer from? Parkinson's disease. That is not a myth. So if that worked well, if it was working to the point that you can now moonwalk, slam dunk the ball going underneath your legs and backwards, I wonder how all that happens.
And does it affect your spine also if you lack some of it in the brain?
Not so much your spine, but there are places in the brain and the spine that certainly are connected. Have you ever heard of a disease called amyotrophic lateral sclerosis or Lou Gehrig's disease?
Lou Gehrig's, yeah.
Yeah, Lou Gehrig. So the technical name is amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. So that's the ALS. You heard people doing the ALS challenge.
Yeah.
Like getting dunked in ice or ice bucket challenge.
Yeah.
Well, the motor neurons in the spinal cord are being destroyed in those people. That's not really melanin, but there are some enzymes like superoxide dismutase that are causing the problem for those cells to die out. But this wouldn't necessarily be the spinal cord.
Okay.
This is the brain that's controlling how the spinal cord is just delivering information. All the spinal cord is a connection site from the brain to your muscles.
Mm.
So there's a disease called Huntington's disease. This is one that's genetic. We wouldn't necessarily say Parkinson's is genetic, but Huntington's disease, the brain starts to deteriorate. Deteriorate. It's like a 35 years old onset. You're going to die. Some of the brain areas that are being disturbed are there in that basal ganglia with those dark centered cells. And so this is a devastating motor disorder. So rather than saying myth, I studied all this.
Mm-hmm.
I got animal studies where I showed the cells in the brain. This is a slide section of a hamster brain showing vasopressin. This is a slide section of a brain showing oxytocin. Oxytocin and vasopressin are very important hormones from your posterior pituitary gland. So for those that want to go back, look at the slide, they can go ahead and look at that scientifically and study it on their own. But we're on a Sunday night, we want to bore them with that. Here is a beautiful cell neuron with the neurotransmitters inside of it being dumped into the ventricles of the brain. If you didn't know, ventricles are basically the cavities in the brain where chemicals being released, where chemicals are being circulated into the brain. So you have one that's dumping its chemicals right into the open area where it can flow somewhere else. This is the enzyme that makes the tyrosine converted to make the neurotransmitters in your brain. For the melanin in your skin, it wouldn't be tyrosine hydroxylase, it would be tyrosinase. So only thing you need to remember here is that it's the enzyme that's important for converting the chemicals to make your melanin. No enzymes, you're going to have a problem. In my hamster brain is a substantia nigra. There's a locus ceruleus. So all I'm saying is, guess what? We can go to the lab and measure this. You know, you heard of Sheikh Diop?
Yep.
He had the radiocarbon, the melanin lab.
Dosage, yeah.
Heavy stuff.
Yep.
So then we conclude on epigenetics and how the environment can have an impact on regulating your gene expression, meaning that we don't study slavery. We don't study what happened during that time period. We act like it didn't exist. You see people getting snatched right now by ICE?
Yeah.
Snatched and screaming and worried. And guess what? That happened to us. We can't even fathom what happened with families being destroyed, like what's going on today. That's stress going on today. All them people that got massacred in Palestine and what's happening in that world, how do they now not harbor that as revenge? You know, so that whole thing about the environment impacting, then maybe making melanin look different, changing the consistency of how it works and operates. There's a study or studies that show that Black men have more telomere damage than other people. Telomere is like the end of the chromosome that's supposed to keep it all tight. It's worn away for people who are more stressed out. And not like that woman ain't stressed out, but they show the studies with Black men having those telomeres being more devastated. So that melanin.
When you say stressed out, you mean like energetically stressed out or like environmental stressed out?
Microaggressions.
Microaggressions
like your boss, like your job, like prison, like the society attacking you.
So it's
like
a build-up.
Yes. Microaggressions. So the constant struggles, not like Black women ain't getting that. Also, the point is that the science shows that the telomeres are more damaged in people who age, and also primarily in Black men compared to other cohorts. So here we have, again, melanin with all these different chemicals that can be latched onto it. When we say latched, that means absorbed. It's not good. That means it stays in your system longer. It means it impacts you differently. Pesticides, cocaine, LSD can stay in your brain for a long time. So we know we're different. How do we know that? Because you see it every day. So 35 degrees. Would you be outside playing Frisbee?
Nah.
Do some people?
Absolutely, yeah.
And some people just different like that.
Yeah.
So a brother named Tyrone Hayes studied the impact of pesticides and how they influence genetics. What? You ever heard of this, brother?
No.
Atrazine by a company named Syngenta. He found out that it was making the frogs get like extra legs and fish different eyes, and
Wow.
there's something wrong with this. And so he talked about gender bending chemicals. That's pretty deep. He got fired for this. He was studying this. They asked him to study it, and he reported it. Oh, don't put that out there. What? Check out this brother, Tyrone Hayes, on your own.
Yeah.
Monsanto, you heard about that? Glyphosate. Man, that stuff is killing people. Other countries don't even want to use it, but it's impacting how your body is now absorbing things, and there may be a reason why some people are taken out. I know you heard of this brother, Muhammad Ali.
Yes, sir.
Called him the greatest. Talk to you, whoop your butt while he's talking to you. Talk to the white man and say, I'm not fighting in your military. The white Muhammad Ali was the man.
Yeah.
But he suffered from Parkinson's disease.
Yeah.
I wonder why. His family says, and I also believe, it was the toxicity of pesticides and things around where he's training and working hard, and over time, it's to assist him. White people say he had a pugilistic Parkinson's disease. That means you get hit in the head over time, and then your brain deteriorates.
Yeah.
I know a whole lot of people got hit harder than he did, and didn't have that. So I think that he was silenced in that slow, progressive situation where that brother would nonstop talking woof on you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They looked at him and said, okay, we got you. That's what I'm saying. They've got to go to the lab and understand how things can be used against us.
And what are pesticides used for? Besides food?
Yeah, herbicides, pesticides. I mean, you're spraying stuff to get rid of animals and insects. And so as you spraying that's why we're concerned about people who work in that industry and they spray without a mask on.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's a bad thing because those toxic elements, your body absorbs that, not just through your nasal area, but through your skin, oral area. So I'm just saying that it then attracts to these melanated centers in the brain, and then they are absorbing it. And that's why you have brain deterioration over time. You don't get Parkinson's disease when you're a kid, over time. And there's chemicals that are related to how that happens, like paraquat. Paraquat is a chemical that looks just like something called MPTP, that these kids were doing some designer drugs in California, and they were developing Parkinson's disease at age 20 because of the chemicals.
20?
Age 20. That's why people started relating the neurotoxicity as a reason for Parkinson's, not genetics. That's why I'm saying that.
Yeah.
So in conclusion, showed that one already, but it's these pollutants that are in the environment that you're consuming that can create the problem. So I already mentioned the bottom two, MPTP and paraquat.
Yep.
They look the same. MPTP is where the drug was consumed, and the metabolite MPP, the metabolite destroyed the cells, creating people at a young age getting Parkinson's disease. You got organophosphates, they inactivate acetylcholinesterase. That's the chemical that breaks down your acetylcholine for movement. If you kind of put it in perspective, you ever seen like in the Amazon, they use blow darts to kind of knock out a monkey?
Yeah.
Those are chemicals that shut down the nervous system. Acetylcholine functioning. So you have some chemicals in the environment that can cause the same thing. PBD. Say that again?
Naturally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Naturally. Curare. Things that can shut down your chemicals from working right. But these created chemicals like endocrine disruptors, that brother Tyrone Hayes studying that, and then bisphenol A. You ever seen water bottles that say BPA free?
Yeah.
Bisphenol free. That's what it means. BPA free, bisphenol free. They don't have this bisphenol in it that can act like an estrogen. So in those water bottles, it can leak, cause a problem. In your community, you have 5G towers in your community. You seen them?
Yeah.
Guess what? Everywhere. They were put up during COVID. That energy can be problematic to the cells. Here's some studies showing that Wi-Fi can threaten human health. We don't talk about it, but it's going on because people making money off of this stuff. It can impact voltage-gated calcium channels in your body. So people who are on blood pressure medicine, some people take calcium channel blockers. So you got now this energy outside that can cause some of your inner workings to be malfunctioning, like fluctuation in your heartbeat. That's problematic. You don't pay attention to it. Radio frequency can alter your gene expression. I just talked about epigenetics. We're talking about the environment impacting how your body responds to things. So we're talking about here gene expression. Just right here, we observed 221 altered genes. You can go back and look at this slide. We just want to get through this, but I'm trying to tell you that we're being attacked on all levels, and our melanin becomes a defense. But also, if it's absorbing these things, you see why cancer is more is more impactful in our community. So here's the brother I told you about earlier, Leon Marshall, the book he wrote called Hidden Sides of Melanin. He has this little image here of the way that light comes into the eye, and visible light is all you see. But guess what? All the other wavelengths are out there. And guess what? Black people might be responding more to that because of the melanin. So that you only see that 350 to about 700 nanometers of light, visible light, but your body responds to all that. That's important to know.
Okay.
Vitamin D becomes important. I'm gonna wrap this up with vitamin D. It's not a vitamin. It's a steroid hormone. Check this slide out right here. That's the sun shining. You know it goes to your eyeball, stimulates the pineal gland, makes the melatonin. That's simple, right?
Yeah.
But check this out. It has a question mark at the top of the head. Does it get to your brain from the top of your head? You ever seen a little child, a baby?
The soft spot?
Yeah, the fountain nose haven't formed yet, but the child in your home or the child that's looking up and talking to somebody, like spiritually, like there's like something out there. Talk about the top of the head and that being maybe the center for that to be occurring. Third eye, you asked about that earlier. So yes, I believe that our African ancestors were dissecting the brain and looking at these images like the corpus callosum, the thalamus, and understanding that the third eye is deep there in the brain. So vitamin D, again, it's not a vitamin, it's a steroid hormone. Here's the process from the skin, and you break it down. It has to go to the liver and the kidney. Without it going through there to be processed, you don't get what you need for your body to work properly. Vitamin D is very important for health, and they didn't talk about none of that during COVID. And it's so simple to take and have. Black people don't have high levels of vitamin D or the steroid hormone because they live in an environment that is not shining as much anymore. The sun's not shining as much anymore. So to return to the source, we have to start looking at trauma that has happened in the past and deal with it. If you see these people being snatched up and taken right now, and you see the trauma, imagine what we went through with the Ma'afa, what we're still going through as a people. We need to channel that energy to not worry about always dwelling on that, but to know that it happened so we can move forward. We can't keep on dismissing our past like it didn't exist. No, we have to focus on the importance of what has happened to us as a people. So need some positive thinking. And so as you're consuming your foods, your positive thinking and the right foods, need pigmented foods. You also need some fish oils or something called omega-3 fatty acids. Your brain is basically a piece of fat in your head. You need to provide some fat for the brain to work right. So omega-3 fatty acids are very important. So you can get that from like codfish, salmon. You reduce your high blood pressure. Some things they say like homocysteine, if they're high, you can have more heart problems. So we can control a lot of our health by dealing with what we put into our bodies. So focus on pigmented foods. So vegetables, fruits that contain pigments are very important. Quinoa, mushrooms. See mushrooms there. Mushrooms have basically some darkness in it. You got the blackness in it because that fungi is important for your body to operate properly. So I got this from a sister name, again, told you earlier, Dr. Joyce Moore and her colleague. They wrote a book called Purple Mind, Shield of Protection. So they're focused on, again, how we can build our immune system, which was not discussed during COVID. They just need to take a vaccine. So we had to play that game. This is what, 2001. article about black skin could be better than white skin at protecting against disease. It says could be, and it says by independent biologists. So again, they do everything to question the power of melanin, like it doesn't have any impact. Yeah. There's great impact. A colleague of mine, brother Dr. Nayana Kokorasian, we wrote an article called Milieu Relevance of Melanin's Antiviral Effects and Interventions to the COVID-19 Pandemic. We put that out in about 2000 and I think 2 years ago. And all I'm saying is that we need to be the people discussing our health, not Bill Gates telling you, who ain't even a medical doctor, what you should be doing.
Yeah.
You don't even hear about Anthony Fauci anymore. I wonder where he went. We need to control what's going on with our bodies, and may the souls rest like Layla Africa, who would always talk about health. Mm-hmm. You got to look at those people who have been here at the forefront of talking about these issues. So that's why we're going to have this Blueprint for Pigment Power conference. You always showed the image. For me, if you want to contact me, here's my email, website, YouTube, the Melanin Institute, and again, the conference information is right there. And I'm just, like I said, I appreciate the opportunity just to have this dialogue with you so we can have this conversation.
Wow.
Stop sharing. So I stopped sharing. You see me now?
Yeah, I see you, brother.
Okay.
Yes, so we're good. Yeah, you stopped sharing. Well, listen, that was definitely thorough. Very thorough, very thorough. We definitely appreciate that. I know the HAPI family appreciates that as well. Everybody in the audience appreciates that. So what we'll do now is, well, first, people, just make sure that you like and share, subscribe, do all the necessary things you need to do. You definitely want to get this information out there. Everybody needs to be a part of this information. Just basically take what you got from it, what you understood, study what you don't understand, and just try to apply it to your life as best as possible. Right.
So the thing is, you can't just get it all in one time, one presentation. I kind of ran through it, but since we now can push the button, go back to tapes, people got that slide and kind of study that. So that's why I'm putting it up like that.
That's the beauty of it. Yeah, because when I started reading your book, The Science of Melanin, man, it was about maybe 80 words that I didn't understand, and so it's like, you got to stop, Google the word, read a little bit more, stop, Google the word. At one point, I was just writing down a bunch of words that I barely could pronounce,
right.
So what I would like to do now is kind of like take it down a little bit and ask you some basic questions, because you basically just gave us the college course, right?
Right.
So I want to kind of keep it plain as possible. And where do I want to start? Let's start. Let's start why you decided to study melanin, and specifically pertaining to the African-centered scholars that were writing about melanin in the books that you wanted to basically shed some light on, as far as scientifically shed some light on what they were already saying.
Yeah, I say I was trying to darken us rather than enlighten us.
Yes.
So the scholars are standing on the shoulders of, again, great people like Dr. Richard King, Carol Barnes, who put the information out there for us to even think about. Our colleague Coco Rassian, who we did that article with in 2021, well, we had been discussing melanin for years. But how do you now make it, as you just said, plain for the people?
Yeah.
How do you also not have it where we're looked at and people living as a myth? So you got to hit the hard science. You got to hit the right information to make sure you squash the naysayers, but you're sharing it with people who really need it. So it's kind of a hard, seesaw channel to go through, because, like you said, you got something out of it, but there were some words like, oh no, what are you talking about here? What does this mean? So didn't want to be in a position where you have the less melanin dominant people questioning what the science is. So since I was in the science, did whatever I could to show that this is an important molecule, but not for us to be caught off on a tangent and get lost, like just saying that it makes you great. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Helps you build a civilization. What does that mean? Well, let's break it down on the importance of, again, how the brain works to make those things happen. It's not the skin. It's not just the melanin in the universe. It's our connection to all of it. That's why it's important to talk about.
Yeah. Okay. Now, did you get some negative feedback or pushback when you were basically shedding some light on what the African scholars were already putting out?
No. I actually I critique Dr. Welsing's work because I focus on a psychocultural theme, like shaking the D out versus the psycho or biogenetic theme. There was no concerns about what I presented. Brother Barnes, he had written some material, critiqued it because I wanted to be more thorough for us as a people, but he's a chemist. So he's just saying that he wasn't really talking about the behavioral component. So it was never any dismissive conversations.
Okay.
I was just critiquing the levels of work because Brother Dr. King, I just want to make sure his stuff was thorough because he's well respected. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or the African Origins of Biological Psychiatry. I want to make sure his stuff is thorough. So for us, it's not a matter of me being in any position to question and dismiss. No, how do we darken and make it better? Refine it. Because this is gold. You know, it's too important for us to have it vilified. And like I said, that woman who wrote the book, Not Out of Africa, like, you guys didn't do anything. And she's never been to Africa. She's an expert on Greek history. A blip in history, 640 to 322 BC. What happened way before that? Yep. That's a teeny blip in history. So I'm just saying we have to be able to define ourselves. So that was the main reason why I really invested a little time in focusing on these topics.
Got it. Okay. So, what I noticed is that being that our history has been downplayed so much and it's been hidden, and they've actually created, back in like the 1800s, certain terms degrading us, 3/5 of a man, all these different things. I think that being that we've heard that so much, even, I've heard people say that, teachers have told them that you're never going to be anything, you've never had any history. That, Dr. Clark's teacher even told him that, Black people didn't have any history. So constantly hearing that, all the time, I think that once we do hear that melanin is a superpower, right? And it's not really like put into context, we run with it because we've been hearing so many awful things. Yeah. And, especially if we're not seeing things that, Black people have done in ancient Africa and all over the world, South America and Europe and all of these different places, we take, once we get emotional with it and we don't have the context, to really elaborate and use these scientific terms. So, like you said, we're creating the skin melanin to our overall genius.
It's not that. It's the brain. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. There's some tough terms, but we have to be invested in that. And if you just think about even on the level of the science, if you see nuclear power plants that have been, like, reactors have blown and nobody can go there anymore, what's growing? Black mold. So blackness is everywhere and it thrives in places you would never know. Why are our bodies dark in places that don't even receive sun? Yeah. So the power of it is more scientific to then explain why a person can rise to a higher level. So much history has been buried in Africa and we don't know about it. It's being uncovered now, but they had all this. They studied the sun. They absorbed the sun. I mean, I don't know how the hell they saw or had that energy being produced there in Kemet, but they knew something about energy. They had to have something to maybe lift those blocks, some kind of energy, sound, something we don't know today, because our history's been released
Mm.
in the books. When you start going to the right books, Gerald
Yeah.
Massey talked about it. Godfrey Higgins talked about it. You got Count Vaughan, he talked about it. These are old school white scholars who said there's something going on about Africa we have to study.
Yeah.
Some of them squashed it. Jay Breasted, people in the University of Chicago, they created Egyptian studies, Egyptology, created a name so they could what? Pigeonhole it and make it into something rather than black science.
Yeah. So how do we, like, if you go back to the beginning of humanity, and it's told that we are the first people on the planet, how do people develop different melanin counts in their skin?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, it has to be because of the environment. I mean, we didn't have no J.C. Penney's or Sears back in the day. People just lived on the environment. You know what I mean? Yeah. So when it was hot or comfortable, you had your skin as your clothing. You started moving away from the equator, colder places, animal fur, putting things on, cover up. And I'm saying we as African people now, in this day and age now, living further away from the sun in places where we now don't receive that vitamin D, you have more health problems. So in the past, we were living in an environment that was conducive to peace and harmony with nature. Around that equator, and you see Nubia, and man, I told you that you saw my little phone, it was 107 degrees.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's hotter than that.
Yeah.
And so being in those environments, you're adapted to it. So your darkness and your blackness, you see those people in Nubia, Sudan now. I mean, they asphalt black, super black.
Yeah.
It's got to be a reason why.
Yeah.
So beyond just the skin, internally, it relates to, again, how your brain is also absorbing all that energy and, again, makes you operate on a certain level of consciousness. And, again, the way the European right now is creating havoc all over the world, in this so-called whiteness, white man land, I don't know, white sister named Louise Daniels talked about white Afghanistan, white Manistan. What they looking for? Yeah. Running from something. Well, they know the world is up for them, and they're just creating havoc. So in nature, I'm just saying the lack of the melanin evidently is then creating people to be disconnected from nature. So okay, so now you're saying the further away you move from the equator, the lighter you will get over the course of thousands of years, of course. Yes. And so if you're losing your pigmentation in your skin, you're losing melanin, right? You're lacking melanin. Yep. Are you also lacking melanin inside the body as well when you move away from the equator? So people said that the pineal gland has been calcified in people who are in those conditions. We know, and I support the discussion that Grimaldi man was a fossil line that was African, stuck in the caves in Europe over time. This fossil developed rickets. What is rickets? A bone deformity. Why? Because no sun, no energy to make the calcium. Therefore, bone deformities becomes brittle. So over time, yes, that can happen. But just look at the little bit of time of us being extracted from Africa, now living here in other parts of the world, like not the Caribbean, in England, or living here, where the sun is not shining as much anymore. Yeah. That's why we now suffer from many health problems, because we're no longer in the natural place where we were, where the sun was more adapted to our melanin. Yeah. And we start to be in places where we're darker, but we're in places where the sun's not shining as much anymore. Health problems happen. So people become lighter to be able to adapt to that. So that's where you start seeing the European potentially come from, because they had to adapt to a place that was now no longer melanin supportive. They had to be lighter in color because they have higher levels of vitamin D than we have. Yeah, yeah. So it's actually a positive thing that that melanated people that lost their melanin during the Ice Age, I would say, right? Mm-hmm. It was a positive thing that they adapted and lost their melanin. Scientifically, if we're saying that the steroid hormone is that important. Other steroid hormones, testosterone, estrogen, you heard of those, and you know the impacts they have. So what impact is the steroid hormone they call in vitamin D, or sotriol, which I like to call it? It was having a great impact on your immune system, your thinking, your health, your sensitivity. And so It's no longer just saying that, oh, dark skin blocking the sun. No, the sunlight is the generator of all life. There is no plant that has no chlorophyll.
Yeah.
It's the life of that substance. Melanin is the life of the human being. No melanin inside the brain, deformities happen. You see with the albino, they have to wear the dark glasses because they can't see with the light.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's ear problems, it's skin problems, it's deformities because the melanin is the organizational chemical to keep the body fit. So anything that takes you away from that fitness is problematic. That's why the sun is not our enemy.
Yeah, you have to be in harmony with the sun. So with plants, with the chlorophyll in plants, do plants lack chlorophyll further away from the equator?
I would say no, but the only white part of a plant I've seen is cauliflower, but the leaves are green.
Yeah.
But no, I would not say that they lack melanin further away from the equator. No, because plants need that. That's the substance of life.
Yeah.
You'd be in Antarctica. People are trying to go to the moon, taking the plants there to grow the items so they can live in another space and place. So now the chlorophyll is the chemical of life for plants. Okay. And like I'm saying, if you've seen the images of Osiris, he's green.
Yeah. Yeah.
We might have been green before.
Yeah.
We rusted out. Yeah.
Got it. So, okay. Also, when you talk about sunlight, right, there's, we have a thing where we say that the sun can affect us negatively. Mm-hmm. And there's also, I also read somewhere, or I think I was watching a video where a gentleman was talking about that we don't get skin cancer. We don't get melanoma, right? And if we do get it, it's like the percentage is like close to nothing. But what we do get as far as melanated people, we get acromelanoma. Have you heard of acromelanoma?
No, but I also would say we can get skin cancer. So that's just a misnomer there. So acromelanoma, whatever you want to call it, is still cancer of a cell because we can still get that.
Okay, so acromelanoma, as far as I understand it, it's the little dot. It's a dark dot, ironically, that forms either under the fingernail, under the toe, in the toenail, in the palm. So it's in all the places that are light that don't get sunlight. So it seems a little ironic that you would get a form of melanoma in places where sunlight doesn't get to.
Yeah, and it's odd because they say Bob Marley had that.
Yeah.
Right? He died from some kind of cancer. He had playing football, the foot got infected and caught cancer. I mean, so all I'm saying is that we can still get cancer, but we have protection to make sure that we can still survive where it's not as lethal to us.
Yeah.
X-rays. I mean, we get X-rays. I mean, are we more impacted than X-rays than other people? More than likely. So we should limit the number of X-rays and that kind of radiation that happens to us.
And why are we more likely affected?
Because melanin absorbs energy. You go to that dentist and they're going to do the X-ray. What do they put? A lead blanket on your organs.
Yeah.
Then what do? They leave the room.
Yeah. My wife was just talking about that too. They gave her a messed up vest and she demanded a better vest.
Right. Serious. So I'm saying the melanin absorbs energy. And so the more it absorbs, then the more impactful it could be on changing the DNA and changing and altering things. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. It's not like we can't get cancer, but we have more of a protection against that.
Got it. Okay. So carbon, right? Give us like in basic terms, what's the relationship with carbon and melanin?
Well, Dr. Sebi is somebody who say we don't have melanin, we have carbon. You know, Brother Akaba wrote the book Carbon Before Melanin. So it is the element of life. I mean, people talk about the 666, talk about that, carbon and its chemical structure.
Yeah.
So when we speak about us coming from the earth or even from the cosmos, we'll talk about I got a book called Blacks, A Race from Beyond the Stars. So we might have come from somewhere else. So that carbon that's in the universe, it's like the blackness of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
It then becomes an element that then creates who people are. I mean, you can have evolution, you can have creationism. White folks now have something called intelligent design.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how you look at it scientifically, we have the same properties that the Earth has and the universe has. So carbon becomes the essential molecule that is the base for making everything that we have beyond saying blackness. I just showed you all those chemicals in there. Dopamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine, all those are carbon-based molecules. So it becomes like the building block to make all that we need for the sustenance of life.
So when you say we have the same, I guess like the same makeup of what's in the universe, so-called out of space, when you say we, are you talking about melanated people or humans in general?
Well, it's probably humans in general, but we have to look at what is a human, because we are more nitrogen-based and Europeans may be more sulfur-based. So that whole discussion about, I don't know, not devils, but vampires and, sulfur being a smell. And some people have certain kind of odors that it's because of the skin tone, the skin and the hormones in the body. Yeah. So I'm not saying melanin recessive people aren't human. I never said that. What I'm saying is that our bodies are, composed of what the earth is made of. 70% water, 70% water.
Yeah.
The distribution of nitrogen, hydrogen, and all those other elements in our body is the same as the universe.
Yeah.
We don't teach that. We don't think that. We just think that we are somebody created from monkeys and monkey to white man.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. As within, as without.
So as we study that, we start looking at more things more universal. That again, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Where's the soul studies? I talk about it in my new book. We need soul studies. How do we study spirit? White people don't do that because, as Dr. Nichols told you, their epistemology is their epistemology is count and measure. Yeah. Can't count and measure, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
That's not our epistemology. Our epistemology is affect symbolic imagery. You're feeling your way through it. You have a whole sense of understanding spirit, whatever spirit may be. But our ancient African ancestors had 7 divisions of the soul. We just say, hey, what's up, soul brother, soul sister?
Yeah.
They had 7 divisions. Kaba, Aku, Seb, Puta, Atmu. I mean, they studied it and understood it. We try to get back to it. We got reverse logic going on right now. We don't understand because we haven't studied what our ancient African ancestors did. Now that we're putting the work in, some know it better than others, and it's up to us to kind of put that out there and change the world. That's why I appreciate what you have done, because where else are you going to get this? Yeah. You know what I mean? You remember Tony Brown's journal?
Yeah. Yeah.
Roosevelt Middleton, you had brother Gil Nobles.
Noble, yeah.
We don't have those anymore.
Yeah.
So you have a role to play to put what the people need, and now you can do it on your own rather than having some corporate sponsorship, because Tony Brown couldn't say everything, I'm sure.
Sure indeed.
Gil Nobles couldn't say everything, I'm sure.
Yeah.
This developed Middleton was with South Carolina's TV, South Carolina State Black School. But I'm sure couldn't say everything, but you have a platform where you can expose your community to all types of information. And here's one that isn't discussed too much: melanin. Yeah.
So what should we be doing to, I guess, like enhance our melanin, or what are some things that are like negative? Some of the things that we're doing that are negative towards our melanin.
Well, on the positive thing, we have to look at consuming pigmented items. The more flesh we eat, the more problems we're going to have. You need protein, but you need to have life-sustaining things that come from the earth. If you don't think like that, you think from a box and a can, you're going to have problems. Yeah. So we have to get out of that mindset, get out of that mood, change that. You can become a full-fledged vegetarian, but the point is you got to look at how you're consuming things and what you put in your body. That's number one. You also have to eliminate those negative thoughts. That's why the TV, telling you a vision, radio, what you listen to is all problematic right now. With HAPI, you have a different kind of channel, a different kind of consciousness, a different kind of thought, which is going to do more to your body rather than, oh, woe was me, we're never going to win. White man this, white man that. Oh, we can't do, black people can't work together. You keep listening to stuff like that That's what your thinking is. It deteriorates your consciousness rather than elevating it with things that you're doing. If we don't read books, if you don't have knowledge, I mean, how are you ever going to make that melanin pop?
Yeah.
When I say melanin pop, like I said, you say you don't know about the gymnastics, but them sisters will make their melanin is popping. Them sisters are doing movements that people can't even do. They're naming what do you call it? Moves after like Simone Biles that nobody else can do. I don't know if you remember our sister named Bonilli, Bonilli.
No.
Canada, black sister, ice skater.
No.
Flipping on the ice.
Yeah.
They disqualified her because
because that flip that she did. Yeah.
Story Bonali, I think that was her name. What I'm making is they said you can't do that because they couldn't do it. You know, so I'm just saying that when we start to understand the power of the things that we can do, stop worrying about what others saying we can't do. So it's a consciousness. Once you start doing that, keep the right thoughts, eat the right foods, we got a chance. Other than that, how you gonna win a war if you ain't healthy? You can't think straight. You can't even run from a bullet. You can't even run. You can't even move. So we got to put our focus on being health conscious. That then follows with your brain being conscious. And then on a political side, that's why we're having this Blueprint for Pigment Power conference, because we got to put it all together. Economic, self-defense, health, wealth, all that has to be. And you all did that with the HAPI film.
Yes, sir.
So from different channels, working on the same thing. When I showed those brothers from the Francophone countries, working it out. And you see what's going on in Tanzania right now?
Yeah.
Devastation, because the people are tired of the cronies being in the political office, taking advantage of the people.
Yeah.
Kenya
is
rising up.
Yeah.
So consciousness does that. So for us, again, as melanated people, we have to get out of the self-defeat. Amos Wilson talked about all that. Self-defeat, self-hatred. Wrote a book called Black on Black Violence. The subtitle of that was The Psychodynamics of Black Self-Annihilation in the Service of White Domination. We're killing our own selves in the service of them. Just had homecomings, and Black people were killed on Black campuses at homecomings.
Yeah.
Agent provocateurs. Do things happen like that? Absolutely. So we have to pay attention to sometimes things are being manipulated, where really it's not us doing the negative things, but agent provocateurs that are creating havoc, and we didn't get caught up in that. But we have to start reading and again start focusing on our, not just our Blackness, but our history and our culture. All these confusions and things now about foundational Blacks, ADOS, African descendants of slaves. I mean, all this disconnection, but someone's funding that kind of thought process.
You said it. You said it. So listen, we have a question from Brother Paul Johnson. Asked about melanin concentrating hormone and melanin stimulating hormone.
Books on it. You know what I'm saying? Thick stuff on the receptors that are involved in your melanin responding to it. That's why I'm saying this discussion, I couldn't get too deep. You see, I gave you a college course tonight, because that's how heavy it is. You got receptors that are responding to the melanin. We already talked about it being released as a hormone in the skin. It goes to receptors. And again, there must be a reason why you feel so good on a nice day when the sun is shining.
Yes, sir.
Cloudy, gotta be a reason why you don't feel too well on a cloudy day.
Yes, sir.
Because these chemicals that are being released are stimulating the cells. Melanin stimulating hormone. I didn't say it, didn't talk about it, but it's an antipyretic agent. That means it reduces your fever, reduces the heat. What? A chemical that can make you dark, lessens your heat? So that's what I'm saying. It has multiple roles to play in our whole human experience. That's why I say human, HUEMAN. We have experiences some people don't have. And these chemicals, again, the receptors, people have studied this. We're not studying. Once we study it, guess what? Changes the game. Let's tell me, my buddy who wrote this article. We got white supremacy in the abstract. Journal of Mental Health and Social Behavior. Hey, they put it out there. Hey, we're just talking the truth. you know. But some people don't want to hear the truth. They're trying to take it out of the schools and have no more diversity and don't talk about the black stuff and don't bring up. Nah, we're in a position of controlling our own destiny right now.
Absolutely. And that's why we brought you on, and that's why we're here. Control our own destiny, whether it's, on YouTube, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, home schools, in your churches, control your own destiny, people. Control your own destiny. Well, listen, Brother Moore, definitely appreciate you.
You're welcome. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you and your audience and questions, and hopefully people get something out of it and take it to another level.
Yep. Okay, so one more. I think we have one more question. Actually, we got a few more questions.
Okay.
Okay, how is the blue screen? This is from Aquila. How is the blue screen from computers and phones affecting melanin?
Well, we do know that over time, the screens have been on computers, like using radiation protective kind of displays. So we know that has changed over the years. Mm-hmm. But there are studies that blue light can have an impact on mood, affect things like depression. So there are studies that show that can happen, and that's really from the eyes. I wouldn't necessarily say it's melanin in the skin and the body. It's the way that the blue light is infecting the eyes, then affecting mood. So if anything, it's because of the radiation from the image going through the eyes, then going through those hormonal changes, impacting mood. So it's not really the skin, but it's the eyes absorbing that.
Got it. Okay. What else we got here? What do you think of the push to wear sunscreen?
No.
That's a good question. Yeah.
Just like you said, you read my book and you can't read some of them terms. If you can't read those names of those chemicals that you're putting in your body, that's absorbing your body.
Yeah.
That's not something I recommend at all, because it's just putting more contamination. So a dermatologist will criticize, why is this guy telling people not to choose sunscreen? Mm-hmm. Well, a white guy would probably say that. Would a black doctor say that? They could, but we're living in a medical, pharmaceutical, industrial complex. It's about chemicals. It's about putting things on. And reality is, I don't use sunscreen.
Yeah.
My melanin still looks good. I play tennis all the time. I'm out in the sun. I'm not farming anything, but I'm out in the sun. So all I'm saying is, leave on the beach. I don't necessarily need that. I don't suggest people to do it. Because again, if you can't read those chemicals and know what they mean, what are you putting in your body?
Yeah.
It actually absorbs into your body.
Yeah.
And there's studies now showing that some of that stuff is toxic. Some of it's been taken off the shelves. You can do your own little research on that. Some of the sunscreen products have been taken off the shelves because they've been contaminated.
So if someone's fearful for getting melanoma, what should they do?
That's like saying they're fearful of the sun. Put on some clothes. Put on a shirt. I was in the Dominican Republic, and there's a little place that everybody had on long sleeve shirts.
Yeah.
They ain't trying to get black.
Yeah.
So ain't trying to be dark.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother level of consciousness there, what we're talking about. But just put some clothes on.
Yeah.
So you need sun. That's the point.
Yeah.
Look how it's been reversed. Oh, stay away from the sun. It's going to make you have cancer. No, the sun's going to make your cells work right.
Yeah.
It's just how much you're being exposed, which could be problematic. But that's with anything. So
we shouldn't be scared of the sun. We need to be in harmony with the sun.
Oh my goodness, that's the great switch that's been put on us. Like I said, and COVID did that as an example. Stay in the house. Yeah. Stay away from people. Stay in the house. That means you're not outside getting sun. People get more sick.
Yeah.
So that steroid hormone then not helping out your whole body to work right is problematic. So yes, we need the sun. No vitamin D, poor health, and Black people got low levels of vitamin D. You do need to take vitamin supplements, especially if you're living further away from the equator. That's very important to do. So sunscreen, that also blocks your vitamin D or the steroid hormone. It blocks the sunlight getting in. So why would you want to do that? That's what it is. Sunscreen, the block. So why you want to block it?
Yeah.
It means you're not getting what your body needs. So that's not something I personally recommend personal choice, but you can do your internet search now and see how there are products being taken off the shelf because they're toxic.
Got it. Okay, we got one from either Ni or Nai Ambi. Sorry if I messed up your name. Is the melanin just structured differently, or is it based on how much?
So I don't know if you mean by in the skin, the brain, because the brain melanin, yes, is structured differently than the skin melanin. The eumelanin for people who are black and brown is different than the pheomelanin. So there's different chemical structures, yes, that can make it different, without a question. But overall, as a substance, it's acting as an absorber of energy, no matter what the color is. So in the brain, the skin, no matter what the pigmentation of the individual is, it's serving that role to play, no matter what the structure. Yeah. Do we say the melanin in the mushroom is the same as the melanin in the brain? Probably not, but they're both serving a purpose. Different structure. The melanin that's in the plant is for the chlorophyll, different structure, still serving a purpose. What? To channel energy. So, yes, different structures, but yes, still serving the same role to absorb energy.
Okay. We got one from Kumbaral Gandizia. Can the environment determine the type of sun that is beneficial to us depending on the location to Africans, negatively or positively, given that you have equal exposure to sunlight on a global?
So I guess it would be nice if we could talk to the person, but I think what we're asking is where on Earth you could be and the sunlight could have a positive or negative impact. So if that's the question, we are now living, for those in the Eastern Hemisphere, or this part of the hemisphere that is, we're living in the winter months where the sun is now further away from us.
Yeah.
So the days are short. So the time period of having sunlight is shortened. And so people can suffer from a disorder called seasonal affective disorder or winter depression. So during this time of the year, when you're further away from the sun, mentally, you can be impacted because your circadian rhythms are off. So without a question, where you're at on the globe can have an impact on that. We as African people coming from a place where the sun is always shining, and you got South Africa, and you got North Africa. So they're not near the equator. The South Africans, they have cold environments, but the black people.
Yeah.
And in North Africa, they were black people. Right now, the Arabs are kind of brown in color, but still black people up there. So the further away you go from the equator, yes, you'll be more impacted by the changes of the so-called overall environment that we live in. So for us as African people living here in the Americas, it's problematic because we came and are away from our natural environment that has an impact on our bodies sustaining themselves. That's why I say you got to take those vitamin D supplements, because when you go get your biological annual exam, they take that blood. Some people don't do vitamin D tests anymore.
Yeah.
It costs, but it's important for your health. But if they're trying to cut costs, they say, oh, that's not important. Well, it is important. But they don't think you're a human or black people need it, then they're not going to study it. But you need to know personally what your vitamin D levels are. They should be higher than, they say, 40 or 50 nanograms per milliliter, but many black people is lower than that. And it's because of the environment we live in.
Yeah. Well, okay. We appreciate you. Listen, one more time, just tell us about your conference.
All right. Blueprint for Pigment Power. It's going to be held in February 6th and 7th. Going to do it at a place called the New Black Wall Street, created by Bill Allen. May his soul rest in peace. Is no longer here. But the point is, at the conference, it's a place for vending. There's a place for buying black products. There's a place for us to have a conference. We'll have some scholars, and I told you earlier about a sister who has some great scientific products working on black hair. The second day, we'll also have it at a place called Privy, a black-owned institution. They're in Stonecrest, Georgia. When we say black-owned, they own the whole property, where there's a massage area, there's a restaurant, there's a, bookstore, a Coma bookstore. For the Ajamu Kazemde has a bookstore called a Coma Coffee House. And there's a venue where we can have our sessions or workshops, and we'll have an event in the evening with a black-oriented band called Musiki Scales and the Common Ground Collective. So we're pushing this right now for Black History Week, month, however we want to say it, because we have Black History every day now, right? We have no choice but to push it every day now. So the conference will be helping us to focus on things that you also did in your film called HAPI.
Yep. Well, thank you once again, brother. We appreciate you, and I'm sure everyone else appreciates you. And we got to have you back on again, because I'm sure it's a whole bunch of other things we could talk about pertaining to melanin and our biology and all that. We appreciate you, bro.
Much respect.
Yes. Listen, don't go nowhere. I'm gonna go backstage. Just want to talk to the people, close it out, and I'll see you backstage.
Okay, I'll be here.
All right, family. Once again, sign up for our newsletter. Give us some Cash App love. You got to support us. You know, it takes money and a bunch of other things to keep this going. Got our HAPI clearance sale. We got some t-shirts and some hoodies out there, some hats, so forth and so on. And check out our movie as well. You could purchase our movie on the website, hapifilms.com. All right. And we'll see you till next time, and stay informed. All right. Peace.
I don't know what we can talk about in this nation without talking about white superiority, honestly.
Who defines the meaning of God also defines the relationship between economy and God.
African Americans spent $1.3 trillion last year, making us the 16th wealthiest nation in the world. Why have we not turned those riches into wealth to develop our community?